How are you going to get done everything you want to do in life if you're not motivated? You're not. If you're doing any of these 8 motivation killers. Once you know what all 8 of them are, you'll have the awareness to stop doing them. Finding your motivation is not as mysterious as you think. Once you stop doing the things that kill your motivation, you'll get to experience how natural and effortless motivation actually is. Because it actually is something that is natural. Whereas most people think of it as something that you're trying to grab at, you're trying to get. I call it the motivation fairy. That's how most people think of it, as like sometimes the motivation fairy blesses you and then sometimes it doesn't. So like it's out of your control, but that's not true. So let's get started. When you think about doing something, we often look to people who have done something like it already. And we say, okay, that's what I want to do, or something similar. It doesn't have to be exactly. So we say, okay, that's what I want to do. And then when you set out to do it, it can feel like you're climbing a mountain you've never climbed before. What am I getting at here? Most often what we're doing that will in this regard that will kill your motivation is comparing yourself to others. And we do this a lot where maybe somebody who started at around the same time you started doing something, and you thought for whatever reason that you were better than them. And then suddenly they start to do, they get better results than you do. Then it starts to feel hopeless, and that kills your motivation. Now we'll try to compare ourselves to people who we feel like we're doing better than. And that's why whenever they start to do better than us, we often use that as motivation. We look at them and say, okay, well, I'm doing better than they are. At least I'm doing better than they are. And so we use that to sort of push ourselves, to pump ourselves up. But sometimes that person starts to exceed what we're doing. And that will kill your motivation so quickly. It is so demoralizing. So the thing to do here is to stop comparing yourself to others. Now, like I've said before in previous videos, there can be some usefulness to comparing yourself to other people. Like if somebody's able to accomplish something that you want to accomplish, then you go look at what they're doing, you compare that to what you're doing, and then you say, okay, well, let me try what they're doing. That absolutely, you want to do those types of things to accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. And sometimes that can actually be very motivating, because you can say, okay, well, now I understand something I didn't understand before. So that clarity will actually motivate you. But if you're thinking of it in terms of comparing yourself to others, like how good you are compared to how bad they are, or how good you are compared to how much better that other person is, that will kill your motivation. So that's the first one, comparing yourself to others. The next one, when I ask the question, what do you want? What pops into your mind? Just think about that for a second. Just ask yourself that question. You say, what do I want? What pops up? Or let me just ask you, did you think about something you don't want in terms of what it is that you want to avoid? A lot of people do this. In fact, I would say more than 50% of the population is more focused on what they don't want, meaning what they're trying to avoid, rather than what it is they do want. We call this an away from strategy rather than a toward strategy. And again, this will kill your motivation, because you're not motivated, you're not focusing on anything that you're motivated toward going to. You're focused on negating the things you don't want. But in order to negate something that you don't want, you have to think about it. And what does that do to your motivation? You have no motivation for it. It's more of a pulling away. But if you put images in your mind of what you do want, you can already feel yourself it's kind of pulling you in that direction. So think about it like this. What if you are having to do some work and somehow, whatever the work you're doing, you can see people in the distance, friends of yours, having a good time. Maybe they're having a party. So you're doing work that you don't like, and you see people off in the distance who you know, who you're friends with, who you want to have a good time with, and they're out there having a good time. If you look down at the work and you keep telling yourself, I don't want to do this work, there's no motivation there. You're trying to pull away. And when you look up and you see those people out there having a good time who you want to join, what do you feel? You feel compelled. You feel compelled to go in that direction. So you can feel it. That's what motivation is. So if you put that in your mind and you think, okay, I'm broke, I'm not achieving my goals, I have a miserable life, and you put your attention there, there's no motivation there. There's negative motivation there, meaning you're demoralized. However, if you put images in your mind of what you want to move toward, if you specifically put images of seeing yourself doing the things that you want to do, you can do that right now. And when you see that, you can feel it. You want to move toward it. And so this is natural motivation. So put more attention on what it is that you want and what it is you want to move toward, rather than focusing on all the things that you're trying to avoid and all the things that you don't want, because that will kill your motivation. So number 2 is focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. And this sneaks up on us a lot. And most people don't, like if you just ask a person that question, do you focus more on what you want or more on what you don't want? They probably won't think much about it, and they'll just naturally say, well, no, I think more about what I want. But then when you actually ask someone, what do you want? See how quickly they can answer that question. See how quickly you can answer that question. I will spend sometimes an entire session, the first session, every session, first coaching session I spend with someone who works with me, that's the first question I ask them. And I've had to spend entire sessions with people sometimes just getting them to tell me what they want, because they will keep telling me what they don't want. Huge problem. And of course, it affects your motivation. The next one is very closely related to what I just mentioned. When you were a kid and your parents told you to do something, it might be something that now makes a lot of sense to you, that you know why you're doing it, you know why it's important, and you don't fight with yourself about it, you don't resist it, you don't try to pull away from it. But when you were a kid, you didn't understand this. And you may have even questioned your parents. They say, go brush your teeth. And you say, why? Why do I have to do that? And your parents try to explain it to you. Maybe they tried. But you couldn't comprehend that, without brushing your teeth, that your teeth would rot, they would fall out of your mouth, or you'd have really bad breath. These things that are at a young enough age don't make any sense to a child. So your parents at a certain point probably lost patience and just said, do it because it's important. And you keep hearing this over time. Because you're a child, you don't have enough life experience. Your parents try to explain it to you. Maybe they didn't try to explain it to you. There were many times my parents just said, I'm not going to explain this to you. It's just important. Just do it. So later in life, we set a goal. We're not sure why we want to achieve that goal, but it seems whatever that goal might be is really, really important to everyone else. Maybe it's making a certain amount of money, owning a certain type of car, owning a big enough house, having a certain amount of kids, a big enough family. Seems really important to everybody else. You don't quite connect with it. You don't quite understand it. But you say, okay, well, if it's important to everybody else, it must be important. So you go after it, but you don't feel very motivated to do it. And then you're constantly pushing yourself. This is what we call resistance. Resistance keeps coming up. Why? Because you're not really connecting with why this is important. In fact, it might not truly be important to you at all. But you've developed a parent-child relationship within you, within yourself. There's one part of you that's doing the pushing, and one part of you that's acting like the child and saying, well, I don't want to do it. Why do I have to do this? I'd rather go watch TV. I'd rather go play video games. I'd rather just sit on the couch and eat junk food. And then there's that parent part that's saying, this is important. You need to do this. And then you're in a fight with yourself. We call this resistance. You could also call that an internal conflict. So that would be the third motivation killer. This parent-child relationship with yourself that needs to be dissolved. You are now an adult. You need to be clear about what's important to you and why that's important to you. And if you're not, then maybe it's not actually important. We often do chase things that other people think are important, and we don't understand it, we don't connect with it. But for some reason, we think, well, if everybody else thinks it's important, it must be important, and then I must push myself to do this. So dissolve that parent-child relationship within yourself. Become one whole adult being. The next one is also very closely related. And it's because of what ideals we have, what we're taught is something we should do, something we should have, and that is self-discipline and willpower. And we idealize these values of willpower and self-discipline without really considering, are these very useful or should we be doing this? It just sounds good. We hear people talk highly of, wow, that person had so much discipline, that person had so much willpower. But again, these words imply that inner resistance. If you have to use willpower, that implies that you are fighting with the resistance inside of yourself instead of trying to understand it. And the same with self-discipline. So we engage and pursue the ideals of willpower and self-discipline without understanding that what we're really doing is creating a fight with ourselves. And that fight often turns into a war. And we talk about things like self-sabotage and all the, like there's this part of me that's just trying to ruin my life. This part of me that never wants me to succeed or have anything great or good. And so I need to have enough willpower and enough self-discipline to defeat this part of myself. All you're doing is just fighting yourself. And again, you want to dissolve this conflict and realize that the strategies, that's what I call them. A lot of people think of willpower and self-discipline as values or ideals. I think of them as strategies. And I think of them as faulty strategies, misunderstood strategies. If you're having to fight yourself, something's not right. There's resistance there that needs to be dissolved. And the reason why this is a motivation killer is because you are divided when you're using willpower and self-discipline. And when you dissolve that division and you become one whole person going toward a goal, there's no fight, there's no conflict, there's nothing dragging you down, there's no resistance to hold you back. That means you're connecting with that motivation, that natural motivation. And this is something we don't often think about consciously. We just do it. Back to the brushing your teeth metaphor or analogy, you just do that. You don't think about it. You don't think about it as willpower or self-discipline to brush your teeth every day for 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years. You just do it because you're clear about why, and there's no fight. There's no inner resistance. There's no conflict. There's no you pushing against one other part of yourself. So you just naturally do it. So when you come to a point where you think, oh, now I need some willpower, now I need some self-discipline, know that these are actually going to kill your motivation, because willpower and self-discipline, it's like a muscle. And that muscle will get tired, it will fatigue, it will give out. Ultimately, it will not get you to where you want to go. And even if you do cross the finish line or achieve the goal or check the box, and you've had to push yourself using willpower and self-discipline, I can assure you it's not going to be anywhere near as rewarding or fulfilling as being complete and whole and going at something because you really want it and all parts of you are on board rather than fighting each other. And again, that goes back to why do we even do this? It's often because of external values, and we're not truly connected to the outcome of what we want. And so that's when we employ these ideals or these strategies of self-discipline and willpower. And that should be a red flag right there. That's something that you're not connecting from within. You're chasing something that other people think are important. Therefore, you go, oh, well, I guess that's important, so I must do it. And now I need a heavy doses of willpower and self-discipline to achieve it. And that's not going to be fulfilling for you at all. And there's no wonder why your motivation will falter. And that should be a red flag at any time. If you feel your motivation's not there, instead of pushing yourself, think, okay, well, what's going on here that I'm not motivated to do this? I went to the mall yesterday with my wife, and I was trying on clothes, and we were pretty on board with this. If I tried on something and I didn't know for sure if I liked it, it was an immediate no. If you're not sure if you like something, there's something there. There's a reason that you're feeling that. And so if I bought the clothes, not sure if I liked it or not, which I've done before, I think a lot of us have done before, when I take those clothes home, there's a good chance I'm never going to wear those clothes because I wasn't fully on board with what it looked like or how I felt in those clothes. So self-discipline and willpower will actually kill your motivation. The next one is something that I hear so often, and of course I used to do this as well. This is probably the most common motivation killer because it's so easy to just say this or do this or not do this. It's more about the not doing. And that is thinking that or being dependent on something that's external for me to then do what it is that I need to do or that I want to do. Instead of taking action, depending on something outside of what I have control over or what you have control over. We often say things like, well, when the economy gets better, then I'll buy a house, or when the economy gets better, I'll start that business. When I get that awesome job, then I'll be happy. Then I'll take that vacation. Then I'll do some travel. I hear that one a lot too, because I like to travel and I get people coming to me all the time and saying, how do you do so much travel? And it's like, well, you don't need to be rich to do it. And you can do it right now. And I sometimes have sat with people and talked to them about this. And either one or two things will happen. Either they realize they don't really want to travel. It just seems kind of cool. Or they will book their plane tickets before we're done with that conversation. That's happened before a few times. So what am I getting at here? Waiting to do the things that you want to do. Waiting until you retire, waiting until you get married, waiting until you have kids, waiting until after your kids are grown. Waiting is a state of mind. There is such a thing as waiting for things that you don't actually control. You could say, well, I'm waiting until October to harvest my crops. Okay, yes, a farmer is dependent on the seasons. There are certain things that are external that we do have to wait for. But when we're talking about things that we can do to be fulfilled, the things that you want to go out and do in life, really live life, most of us are in a state of waiting. It is a state of mind. There is always something that you can do as it relates to your own development, to your own fulfillment. You can always be doing something. If you are unfulfilled and you are waiting to be fulfilled, or you're waiting to be happy, or you're waiting for motivation, you will wait forever. That waiting is a state of mind that is zero motivation. So stop waiting and realize that right now you can do something about what it is that you're interested in trying or creating in your life or building in your life. You can take action right now. Even if it's the smallest step, there is always at least one step that you can take right now. And taking action destroys that waiting mindset. And that creates momentum, which is also what motivation, it was just fuel for motivation. So when you get out of that waiting mindset, you reconnect with your motivation. So get out of that waiting mindset. Start right now. No more waiting. The seventh motivation killer. Let me ask you first, who here suffers from fear of success? And some of you have heard me talk about this. There is no such thing as fear of success. You are not afraid of succeeding. Everyone wants to succeed. Every part of you wants you to succeed. Every part of you wants you to be happy and fulfilled. Fear of success is what I call a destructive concept, a destructive belief. But it's so heavily perpetuated out there in the world of personal development, just like willpower, just like self-discipline. This idea that you actually fear your own success. You may fear change. You may fear the unknown, but you do not fear success. If you were starving and I put your favorite plate of food in front of you, you wouldn't think twice. You wouldn't go, gee, I don't know if I can eat this food. I don't know if I can satiate my hunger because that would be succeeding. And I'm afraid of success. No, of course not. You would eat the food right away. And that's how you want to think about the things that you actually want. You want to connect with that hunger for what it is that you want. And remove that resistance that I talked about. Understand your resistance so that you can integrate it and remove it. You are not afraid of success. So stop buying into these ideas in personal development and self-help where they tell you that, oh yeah, you know, your problem is you fear success. And you go, oh, that must be the problem. And then you go chasing this idea, trying to solve it. And if you're trying to solve an imaginary problem, guess what? There's no solution to an imaginary problem. And what happens is you get very confused, you get very frustrated, then you go back to the guru, so-called guru, who told you this idea, who put this idea in your head, who tied your brain in a knot with this riddle about being afraid of success. And then you go, well, what do I do? And they go, great. Time to buy my course where I will take thousands of your dollars to solve a fake problem that I created for you. And this happens so much. So when you hear something like that, when you hear any type of kind of strange solution, as good as it might sound, even though you think it might be the source of your problems, make sure you question it. Because something like this could totally inhibit your motivation. If you believe that there's an obstruction or an obstacle that's not actually there, but you believe it's there, and if you believe it's there, then believing it makes it real. And you will stay within the confines of that faulty belief. So be very careful of these seeds that people might plant in your mind about what your problem is or what your limitation is. Number 7, pride. I get a lot of pushback on this when I talk about pride, because so often we're told that we should be proud. We should be proud of ourselves. You should be proud of your kids. And I get that question a lot. So people go, well, you're not proud of your kids? And I would say, no, I'm very grateful for my kids and I'm very satisfied with my kids. But if I were proud of my kids, what I'm doing is I'm creating self-importance in myself, which means I'm taking some credit for who they are. Now, I'm part of that process. I'm part of the process of raising them, but I cannot take credit for who they are and for what they do. They're their own beings, and that's how I want them to think of themselves, not as extensions of who I am. Pride is based on self-importance, and it feels good. I understand why people like pride, because it feels good, but there's nothing good about it. And then it's actually a rather big burden. What's funny about this is all of the major religions and all of the major philosophies, all of them tell people to watch out for pride. Don't engage in pride. Yet we're taught in many cultures that pride is good. It's very contradictory. So pride is overvaluing yourself and overlooking flaws, mistakes, and things that you need to correct. It feels very good. It can feel very euphoric if you really pump yourself up with a lot of pride. But then where does that take you? It actually does not motivate you to challenge yourself. Think about it. If you're a very proud person, do you embrace challenge? Do you embrace other people's feedback? No, you don't. If you're feeling very proud, you want to protect that feeling. So you're afraid of challenge. Think about a very proud boxer, champion boxer. Does he want to be challenged by someone who he perceives he's better than, only to lose to that person? No, they don't want the challenge. They want to stay at the top. They want to be perceived as like this great sort of better than human being. So pride inhibits your motivation. If you replace pride with gratitude and curiosity about your potential, that will take you so much further. That's very motivating. Think about that. You're grateful for what you have rather than proud of what you have. You're grateful and you're curious. You go, well, I wonder what is possible now. I wonder what my potential is here. Not I'm trying to protect what I've managed to create, what I've managed to acquire. Anytime you engage in that, your motivation is going to drop. So that will kill your motivation. So number 7 is pride. Number 8 is kind of the most obvious one, but I think it's the one that's the solution is not so obvious. When you think about when you're not motivated, what do you normally do when you think of yourself as not being motivated? Typically, we think of ourselves as doing all the things that we do when we procrastinate. Watch TV, play video games, kind of just sit around, do nothing, eat food that we're not supposed to. Now, I don't like it when people say socialize with friends, because actually I think that's really important. Unless maybe you're overdoing it. We need balance in life. Socializing with friends and family is super, super important. If you're not doing that, you need to add that into your life. It's good for your health, your physical health, and your mental health. Now, if part of that socializing is lots and lots of drinking or even doing lots and lots of drugs, okay, yeah, you don't want to do that. But when you think about being lazy or procrastinating, you're not necessarily unmotivated. You are motivated. You're motivated to procrastinate. You're motivated to be lazy. And I like to say often too that I don't really believe in laziness. I'm not going to get too much into that, what that means exactly. But what I've watched people do, people who are being lazy, they work very hard at it. I've talked before a lot about being a bartender, and you have barbacks who are supposed to help you at the bar. They help you clean up the bar. They help bring you stock supplies in the bar. And when I was a bartender at Harrah's Casino in New Orleans, I used to go into the basement to go to on my breaks, and I would see the barbacks like hiding and watching out for the supervisors and the bartenders themselves, because we would tip the barbacks, and if we saw them like not doing their job, we wouldn't give them as much in tips. And I was like, wow, they're expending so much energy trying not to get caught. If they just did their job, it would really be basically the same amount of energy. I've had family members who would do so many things to not have to actually go and get a job and work. Like I've even known family members who would panhandle in the street. And that's work. That takes a lot of energy. That takes a lot of effort. And then there's also the suffering of not being able to have the money to do the things that you want to do. So you're going to expend the same amount of energy if you're lazy or procrastinating. So you might as well take that and move it towards something, or put it towards something that will actually get you things that you want and will be fulfilling and satisfying. So I see laziness and procrastination as a strategy, but there is motivation to do that. So you got to think, well, what's really going on here? Why would someone use such a strategy or such strategies as laziness and procrastination? That's because they're probably valuing comfort and immediate gratification more than anything else. So why would they do that? Why would you why would you value comfort so much to the point that it makes you uncomfortable? Why would you value procrastination so much to the point that you kind of look around and go, wow, okay, my place is a mess. I'm broke. I don't have any money. I'm not creating the things that I always thought I would create. I'm not achieving the goals that I want to achieve. And the reason for that is those things, getting those things or doing those things is more immediate and it's more guaranteed. There's more certainty in playing video games that there's going to be some gratification there. There's more certainty in, I don't know, watching TV or doing something that's more leisure than getting out there and working towards something that you want. It's more certain than going out there and working towards something to build something, to create something like a business or maybe exercising to create a healthy body. It's more unknown because you haven't done it yet as to whether or not that's going to fulfill those higher values for you. So what am I getting at here? If you're doing a lot of procrastination, you're being lazy, any of those things, know that something is working there, and that is you are creating comfort. Now, there's not much fulfillment in comfort, actually. There's not actually that much fulfillment in pleasure. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with comfort or pleasure either. Comfort is important. We need a certain amount of it. We need a certain amount of it. But too much of it becomes uncomfortable, becomes restless. Pleasure is the same thing. You can only get so much pleasure out of something, and then it reaches an endpoint. It gets fulfilled very fast, and then if you continue to try to push for pleasure, like eating food that's very pleasurable, but at a certain point you get full, and if you keep eating, then it becomes painful. So there's not a lot of fulfillment in there, but it's immediate, and we're certain about it. I know that if I eat French fries and pizza and burgers, it's going to taste good. It's going to feel good for about 15 minutes. And then after that, then you're kind of done. But what about creating a business or a career, building up a career where when you get there, you're doing the work that you want to do, you're making the money that you want to make, and with that money, you're able to do even more things that you want to do, or you take the time to really find out what kind of partner you're looking for, and you do enough dating and you finally find that person. That's extremely satisfying and rewarding, and perhaps lifelong satisfaction and reward. Well, for most people, that feels too uncertain. That feels too risky. It feels too risky to put myself out there and really try hard and work towards something because I'm afraid of disappointment. I'm afraid of being rejected. So how do we get around this? This is where your own personal values come into play. If you knew what your values were, which most people don't, most people think they do because we're taking the values the external values that our culture, that our society, that our parents, that our friends, that they say is important, but be very skeptical of that. And it's not that they're not well-meaning. A lot of them are. They want good for you. But if you don't know what your own personal values are, then you don't really know what will truly fulfill you. And so, yeah, a lot of those activities, those ventures, those risks, they seem too crazy, too risky to go after. But if you could elicit your own values and then realize, what is that idea of writing a novel? What is that idea of starting a business? Why is that idea of taking my career to the next level by doing more schooling? Why does that idea keep bouncing around in my head? I want to do it, but it's too risky. But why do I feel this way? Why do I want to go and do that? Because that's your values. That's your inner wisdom telling you that there's something there for you. And if you can elicit your values around what those things are, what's driving you to want those things, then you know what's going to fulfill you. You have a much clearer idea of what's going to fulfill you. Now here's the thing, and your values are motivation itself. So when I understand that, and I can understand what the value is, Values are a bit vague: happiness, joy, peace, passion, even curiosity and playfulness. These are all values. They're kind of vague, right? But what that vagueness does is it allows you to explore many possibilities of what might fulfill these values for you. So if I thought, okay, I'm going to start an insurance business, I need to make X amount of dollars, and then with those X amount of dollars, I'll have time to go do these other things that I want to do, and that's going to make me happy. It's going to make me feel free. It's going to make me feel at peace. You don't know that. You don't know that until you try it. But most people don't know about the happiness and the freedom and the peace. They just focus on, well, if I just do this very narrow path, then maybe that will bring me to fulfillment. And then you try it, and then it doesn't work. You're not fulfilled. And so you go, oh, I tried leveling up and it didn't work. So I'm not going to try that anymore. I'm going to go be lazy and procrastinate. But when you know what your values are, you never quit on your values. You never quit on your values. And there's endless tries, endless possibilities of how you might fulfill those values. And you can spend the rest of your life discovering what are those things, what are those activities that you can do that will fulfill your values. And that's where life really becomes an adventure. And as long as you stay connected to those values, you will experience motivation. You will continue to keep doing these things, no matter how many failures you might have. Failures don't matter, they're just feedback. You're connected to those values and you keep going. And that's what happened for me at a certain point in my life. I wanted to be great. I wanted to be great at something. And when I fell into depression twice over a period of about 10 years, I realized, I just want to be happy. How about that? I don't need to be great at something. I just want to be happy. And so finally, I knew one of my values, and that happiness was me launching that journey. And there were still ups and downs, but I was still focused on that. I'm going to be happy. I committed to that. And that's what you need to do. You need to commit to your values and be willing to quit any strategy or quit any goal and stay focused on the value. If a goal or strategy is not fulfilling you, drop it and find something else, do something else. Now, some of you might be asking, well, how do I do this, Damon? How do I elicit my values? In the description below this video, and if you're watching this on Facebook, it's actually above the video, there's a PDF there. There's a link to a PDF, and there's a whole process there that will show you how to elicit your values. And I recommend eliciting your values around every area of your life, or within every area of your life. So break your life down into 3 to 5 major contexts. It could be like career, marriage, family, even hobby. And think about, what do I want here? And ask yourself that, and then follow the process of eliciting your values. When you know what your values are in each area of your life, now you've got the direction to go. It's kind of like having a compass. You know where you want to go, what direction you need to go. And even if there's a lot of unknowns, and even if you don't recognize the path in the sense of like the territory, you don't have necessarily a map, you don't know all the steps, it's okay. You still know the direction. And that is the most important thing, is having a direction. So motivation, what is motivation really? Motivation is this simple. Motivation is clarity about what you want. More specifically, clarity about what you value. And clarity about how to fulfill those values. When you know that, it's like seeing that food that you love when you're really hungry and it's right there in front of you. All you have to do is go for it. So commit to your values, which is the most important commitment you can make in life. And that will take you on a worthwhile journey of finding meaning, purpose, and fulfillment in your life. And this is why it's so important to elicit your values and know what your values are. All right, I see I got a lot of comments here. All right, wonderful. Well, glad all of you showed up. Let me look at these real quick. Okay, bro, hi back. I don't have an answer there. What do you want? Tried to figure it out, but I just don't get any strong answers. Okay, so Oleg, if you're not getting any strong answers to what you want, it's time to start taking some action. I guarantee you, taking action is one of the best ways to get clear about what you want. You could start with eliciting your values. Working that out on paper will help you tremendously. But when you start taking action, you start getting that feedback, And I don't mean just feedback from people, just feedback from, does this work for me, or am I enjoying this? That kind of feedback. This will create a lot of clarity for you. So be willing to take action. Do it. See, I tested a lot of NLP techniques from Bandler, new books, but it did not work. I guess that happened because he doesn't teach or recommend to do values elicitations, so resistance can be the cause. I'm sure at some point Bandler has written about values or talked about values. When NLP techniques don't work, there could be a lot of reasons. It really helps to have a teacher. It really helps to practice while having someone supervise the practice, because people make a lot of mistakes. There are a lot of teachers out there who are teaching NLP incorrectly. I'm not saying Bandler is teaching NLP correctly. He was a co-creator of it. It's not the easiest thing to do on your own. I'll put it that way. I tried it on my own too. It wasn't until I started actually attending trainings that I really started to get it. So I tried learning from books, and it really didn't work. So it's usually user error, and I'm not in any way trying to put you down or anything. It's just not the easiest thing to do without a guide, without a teacher or coach. Okay, I don't feel scared of success. It's more that I don't feel like I deserve success. Okay, so that's what we call a self-worth issue. And what you need to understand is that there's no such thing. I know it feels like there is such a thing as self-worth, but there is actually not. So this is a limiting belief about deserving. The truth is that there's no such thing as deserving. Now, if you have an agreement with someone, if you've made an agreement with someone and you upheld your end of the bargain, then yes, you deserve, in the context of that agreement, whatever it is that was agreed upon. That's not what I'm talking about here. In life, you're just born into this world, right? And there's no one who deserves more than you, and there's no one who deserves less than you. You see a dog, you see a cat, they're not going around thinking they deserve love, or they deserve food, or they don't deserve love, or they don't deserve food. They just go and find it, right? A cat or dog will walk right up to you and be like, give me some love, right? It's not thinking about in terms of deserving or not deserving. We need to get back to that understanding that we want what we want, we need what we need, and we just want to go and get it, of course, and doing so and not hurting other people when we do it. But there's no such thing as deserving. There's no such thing as not deserving. Okay. Again, I realize that it may feel that way, and just me saying that doesn't change it. But if you start with that understanding and maybe tell yourself, from this point forward, I am going to find the truth of this. Do I deserve or do I not deserve? Is this a real thing or not? Don't try to prove yourself. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying here is really try to find the truth of, is that actually true? Do people actually deserve or not deserve things? And if you seek that out, if you seek that answer, you will find that there is no such thing, because you can't find it. There's nothing around that says, okay, here's how deservingness is determined. There's no such thing. So yet when they tell you what they think your problem is, instead of guiding you to get the real answer. Okay, what are the differences between self-concept model from the core transformation model? The self-concept model is a identity self-concept based model. Core transformation is more about states, core states. You might say, what's the difference about that? A state is more something that kind of comes and goes, and it's more like a mood, whereas a self-concept is a belief. It's a generalization that's based on all of your beliefs about yourself. Well, being lazy is not as easy and takes a lot of energy trying not to think about and not worry about the things. Yeah, laziness is hard work. People who are lazy are deluded by this idea that they can get out of doing work. At some point, you're going to pay for this, in the meaning that you're either going to suffer for the things that you don't have, or you can do the work and get the thing. I just find it's a lot easier to just do your work and get what you want and have more control over that, rather than trying to avoid it. Okay, but don't you agree there is a difference between to stick to a habit like brush your teeth than one of study for 4 to 5 hours a day? I mean, one is a lot easier to do and stick. Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on what you're doing that for. So if you need to get a degree, and in order to get that degree, let's say like a law degree, you need to study for 4 to 5 hours a day. Well, connect with what is driving you to get that degree, and then say, okay, in order to do this, I need to study 4 to 5 hours a day, and it's temporary. So brushing your teeth is not temporary. If you're studying 4 to 5 hours a day because it's a subject that you really enjoy, then I don't think you need to be motivated, right? The motivation's already there. You enjoy the subject. I do what I do, and the reason I do is because I'm motivated to do it. I don't have to talk myself into it. So it all depends on what you're talking about. But yeah, if you're studying 4 to 5 hours a day and it's stuff that you don't necessarily like to study, but it's for a bigger purpose, a bigger end goal, then make sure you understand the values that are driving you to achieve that end goal, and then connect with that while you're studying, and then tell yourself, okay, this is temporary. It's not gonna be for the rest of your life. Like brushing your teeth will be for the rest of your life, unless you lose your teeth, of course. Thanks for doing the live. It was a great reminder, so I better get back to reading my book. Okay, writing live. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me on this live, and for those of you who are watching this after it was live, thank you for attending. Thank you for watching this video. Leave me a comment. I do respond to all the comments if they're serious comments or serious questions. Let's see, I am paying for it and I know it, so why do I still go for the quick fix of the YouTube videos instead of just doing the work? And how do I change that? That's the million dollar question. Yeah, well, it's not real to you yet, is what it is. It's the other stuff isn't real to you yet. And that's why I would recommend creating a vision. And when you have a vision and you've cleared out the resistance to that vision, then it becomes very real to you. And it's like it's right there in front of you. I mean, it's almost like having a choice. You'll see doing the what is it you're doing? You're watching YouTube videos. So you'll see like, okay, I could go watch YouTube videos, or I could go have that life that I really want. And when that's real to you and it looks like a real choice, the choice is going to be easy and natural. You're just going to be like, well, why would I ever do this? I'm going to go and do that. Can you specify what you mean by taking action and getting feedback in the context of figuring out what someone wants? If you mean taking action that fulfills a specific value, what is a feedback? So, for example, okay, Oleg, I don't believe that you're completely clueless about what you want. Like, I don't know what your sexual orientation is, but I'm gonna take a guess. I'm gonna say you're probably a dude and you like women. Okay, you want a girlfriend, you see an attractive woman, then an action you could take is go introduce yourself, give her a compliment, say hi. Okay, I'm sure you want that, or in some capacity, if you're of a different sexual orientation, just plug all this stuff in. And so you see that and you go, yeah, I want that. Or there's some sort of inspiration. You see somebody doing something or having something and you go, yeah, I'd like to have that. Then go, what's the next step here? Go find out how would you go about getting that. I wanted to have a certain amount of money. I wanted to make a certain amount of money. I wanted to travel the world. I saw people doing it. I wanted to work remotely where I could work anywhere I want. I'm in Romania right now, in my second home in Romania. I live in California full time, or most of the time. I wanted these things. And when I got very clear about why I wanted them, then it was, part of that was like, okay, well, let me go travel. Let me go do some travel. Let me start working on that business. And so I took whatever, even the smallest steps. And I go, yeah, this is working for me. I like this. It wasn't always easy. It wasn't like a walk in the park, but there was something there. And so as I go through it, and then the feedback you get is, part of the feedback is, am I enjoying this? Do I like this enough to keep doing it? So far, so good. Okay, I'll keep going. So that's the feedback I'm talking about. You could also count feedback as like, well, how do other people respond to you? And then you go, okay, do I need to adjust something here? Do I need to change something here? But when I'm talking, the main feedback you want to know is there something here that I like? Even things that were really hard, you still go, there's something here, there's a curiosity that hasn't been satisfied yet, or something like that. And so you keep pursuing it. See, I'm learning a lot about the NLP models of Meta and Milton via writing and some internal work versus via Bandler books and EFT, but learning NLP in general, yes, a teacher is required. Yeah, it's really hard to do without it. And a lot of what my YouTube videos, when I first started doing YouTube, one of the I guess the audience I was making those videos for were people who had taken NLP training but still didn't understand like how to really do the processes. And I thought, okay, well, I was that person at one time. I know there's more people out there like that. They spent thousands of dollars on a training and they really still don't understand these NLP techniques and processes. Let me make a video about that. And it's interesting now because I go and give talks at different summits and conferences, hypnosis and NLP summits and conferences, and there's other teachers there who are giving presentations who come up to me and say, you know, when I was learning NLP, I was watching a lot of your videos because I would go to the training and then I didn't understand something. And I was like, I bet Damon made a video about that. And sure enough, I had made a video about that. And they were saying how well, how I was able to help them through my videos find out what these, how to do these techniques and processes, because I would explain it in a much clearer way than these teachers were explaining it. So yeah, it's not the easiest thing. So if you're struggling while reading a book on NLP, you're not alone. What should we do if we have values that change as we get older? So this is a kind of a chicken and egg question. You know, they say, what came first, the chicken or the egg? In my opinion, here's my hypothesis or my theory. And until something about this changes, I mean, I would have to have different experiences for my theory to change. But my theory is at the deepest levels, your core values, your highest level values, things like happiness and joy and peace, I don't think those values change. I don't think we stop valuing them. I think as we get older, we get clearer and clearer about how to fulfill those values. The means in which we fulfill our values will change, right? I used to surf. At the time that I was surfing, it was really enjoyable. It was obviously fulfilling something in me. And then just one day, it just stopped being fulfilling. I don't know why. My values didn't change. It's just that this activity stopped fulfilling them. I can go back even further. I remember I used to watch cartoons every Saturday morning. Used to love that. Wake up early, watch cartoons for hours. And I remember one morning I woke up, went to go watch cartoons because that was the habit. And I was like, you know, this isn't doing it for me anymore. I'm going back to bed. Why does that happen? I don't really know. But I don't think my values ever really changed. You just get clear and clear about them, clear and clear about how to go deeper and deeper with them, how to find deeper and deeper levels of fulfillment to prepare for the future yoga. All right. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I was on here much longer than I expected. Love the questions. Keep asking them. You can keep putting them here in the comment section and I will answer them for you. All right. Take care, everybody.